Greetings everyone, the Watchropony here, and I'm coming to you as Watchropony the Dungeon Master because I've got a little something involving Questrians. For those not aware, Questrians is essentially my D&D game I play on Twitch every couple weeks or so. And if you look on my YouTube channel, I have released 3 episodes so far. However, there's kind of a big problem, and it's the reason why I haven't been uploading episodes. It's because my old laptop got completely destroyed and had to be repaired. And in turn, I lost most of those early episodes. Hence why I kinda stopped uploading them onto YouTube. However, I'm seeing more and more people showing interest and a demand for wanting to see these on YouTube. And I don't just want to skip to the latest episode that's okay. So I figured this was the best compromise I could think of. So I'm going to sort of, in a sense, tell you all what happened. Like me telling a story, which is kind of what D&D is in a sense. And don't worry, I did my best to get every single detail, or at least the important ones / funniest ones. So in a sense, this is kind of like episode 4. Just an episode that tackles a big chapter. But without any further ado, sit back and let me regale you with the first chapter of Questrians, the journey to the city of false gods. So when we last left off, our heroes, Morna the High Elf, Vanova the Half-Dark Elf, Storm the Tabaxi, Frigid the White Dragonborn, Sindri the Tiefling, and Pancake their Pom-Pup, had just acquired their GPS Mimir. He led them up the mountains towards a forge, but first encountered some giants duking it out. And Morna basically said, hey, cut that out, and they left. They arrived at the mighty forge to find it completely and utterly abandoned except for the smell of dragons. And while traveling through the forge, they found themselves in the center of a big area full of magical items. Frigid got a sun sword, Storm got the Emblem of Luck, Morna got the Staff of Nature, Vanova got the Adder Staff, Pancake got a bag of tricks, and Sindri got the Deck of Destiny. However, after acquiring all their items, they are confronted by a Gorgon. But our heroes weren't about to be defeated, and they busted through the wall to the other side and found themselves at Bloodhaven, a port city of nothing but scum and villainy. While on their way down there, they come across a little halfling named Mia, and her faithful companion Clover, who's a donkey by the way, as well as her big old cart of stuff. But they don't just find Mia, they also find a crap ton of orcs on their way over as well. Luckily though, Sindri's good friends with the captain, and they actually managed to tag along with them without getting killed. And once they arrive there, Mimir tells them that there's one person who could lead them there because he's been there before, Blitz, the captain of this city. Mia didn't want to go with them and had to set up her cart because she was a merchant, so Sindri decided to tag along and help her out. Meanwhile, the rest of our party went to the scuzziest tavern they could find to find Blitz, and sure enough, he's in the back room ready to gamble. Unfortunately, even though Storm did her best, she fails and they don't win the prize. But Blitz decides to play along and says that he feels sorry for them and is going to help them, only for them to be trapped in the basement of his mansion in his mini zoo. And unfortunately, he's way too fast for them to actually fight him, thanks to a little item he has called the Vial of the Four Winds, which essentially gives him super speed. But luckily, at this point, Mia and Sindri notice something's up, that they've been gone for a long time, so Mia tags along with Sindri and they go to try and find them, and after sneaking through the guards, they manage to get near a window to the basement and see it. At first, the window was locked, but luckily, one of the gnomes he was keeping captive managed to escape and get it open. And Sindri essentially intimidated the little gnome to help them free everyone else. And when I say free everyone else, I mean free the giant-ass 7-headed Hydra and let shit get wrecked. Yeah, that caused more than enough of a distraction for Frigid to get free, knock Blitz out, and then run like hell. However, they lucked out once again as they managed to get a ride thanks to the orcs having a boat ready for them. Meanwhile, the captain of the orcs would hold off all the other guards that were chasing them because they kidnapped Blitz. However, Mia was not much of an adventurer, and this was where they had to part. But not before Sindri gave Mia the Vial of the Four Winds that Blitz had, because he certainly didn't need it. And so they set sail, ready to be pirates on the open sea. Then once Blitz awakes, they essentially quote-unquote convince him to lead him towards the city of false gods. Oh, and also, Storm took a liking to him, and Fritter essentially married Storm and Blitz. So yeah, Blitz is forced into a marriage and is now married to Storm. And speaking of marriage, we actually meet Sindri's wife next. A red dragonborn rogue with lots of little pistols on her belt. And we also meet a rather young pirate that's also a part of her group. And so our red dragonborn decides to lead them through the Sea of Thieves. And so after nearly getting hit by a dragon turtle and one-hit TKOing 6 harpies, they come to a very cavernous area known as the Mermaid Grotto, which is where our red pirate must part. But not before we learned that the young man was actually a friend of Vanova's. Basically from her time as a pirate, Yes, Vanova was a pirate before she became an adventurer. And thanks to some encouragement from Frigid, the young man kisses Vanova and they share a tender embrace before they leave. And with that, our adventurers leave the Sea of Thieves and enter the Mermaid Grotto. Unfortunately, their route was blocked by some debris. However, a small cute little mermaid friend gets their attention and tells them that she knows a way around it. So our adventurers decide to trust the mermaid and go with her, except for Blitz who stays on the ship because he's kind of a coward now. And thanks to some magic to create some breath pockets, they decide to go down into the deep abyss and find a little city of mermaids, who helps them on the condition that they help uncorrupt a mermaid of theirs, who is being manipulated by a dark elf and is using a basilisk to kill our adventurers. But thanks to the help of our little mermaid, they manage to defeat the dark elf, but not before he mentions a certain wizard, his master and a very powerful, very evil wizard by the name of Balsafar. And with that, the dark elf dies, and they have accomplished their adventure and cured the mermaid. So with the mermaid's help, they manage to get the boat through the grotto. And so they continue on their adventure. Unfortunately, a big hurricane is hitting the ocean. So our adventurers decide to hunker down near a temple. And while at the temple, they find another dark elf, a rogue dark elf. However, this one actually seems to want to help them. And she explains that she's actually here to look for ancient treasure at this temple, the Temple of Storms. And it was being guarded by a horde of Kortuas, which are basically little fish people. But they fight their way through and manage to enter an inverted lake. And by that, I mean the lake is on the ceiling and they're on a path. Oh yeah, and it's also being guarded by a plesiosaur that tries to eat them. But one strong sucker punch by our puppy manages to defeat it. And so they come to the center of the temple, where for the first time, they meet Balsafar, a bony, almost dead decaying man in red robes. So he was no ordinary wizard, he was a lich. But this lich had too much on his hands to deal with a couple adventurers raiding a temple, so he summons a water elemental to take them down, and then he disappears. And then Frigid basically befriends the water elemental. So yeah, boss defeated, and they actually managed to find the item in the temple, the Trident of the Sea. But after acquiring the Trident of the Sea, the magical lock on it was broken and its owner arrives. Another merfolk who is essentially the king of the sea, and he thanks them for their time and acquires his trident back to return to the ocean. With the trident returned to its rightful owner, the storms stop, and off in the distance, they can see the island where the city of false gods is on. But it was no ordinary island, it was on the back of a giant sea turtle. And I mean giant, I mean this thing was basically a continent. And so they dock their ship on this giant continental turtle, and they set off towards the desert, where they seek transportation from a caravan, and while on the caravan, they meet a wolf warrior. Think Pancake the Palm Pup, only make him basically a werewolf. And sapient and not evil. They befriended this female wolf warrior, but they needed to stop for a break and got swarmed by desert ants, which are basically giant fire ants. But one of them near its deathbed was befriended by Frigid and healed up. And so their first pet was acquired, Anthony. Yes, his name is Anthony the Ant. And Frigid rides him along with the caravan until they come across a pyramid, which is said to be the key to the city of false gods. They enter it and in turn get separated, but from here we follow Sindri, Fritter, and their new wolf companion, going deep through the caverns, and they uncover more about Balsafar's origin. Thanks to the drawings on the wall, they find out that Balsafar was locked in mortal combat with his brother, Isun. Isun was his good brother, and didn't want him to take over the world, so he forged 6 magical items in order to seal him away. But it was said that he couldn't seal him away forever, and that Balsafar would return one day, and he would bring with him a great, great evil in the form of Tiamat. And so Fritter makes the assumption that he is a Tiamat worshipper and seeks to bring Tiamat to this world, who is basically the god of all evil dragons. And Frigid would definitely not want this, considering his god is actually Bahamut, the god of good dragons. And so they come to the central throne room and find a Sphinx along with her Thri-Queen minions, as well as the rest of their friends slowly drowning in hourglasses of sand. But our heroes were not being defeated so easily, not this day, and so they defeated the Sphinx. However, the pyramid was also collapsing and they had to get out fast. But luckily, they managed to get out, and in the scuffle, they managed to find the City of False Gods. A giant monolithic city made of pure gold, glistening in the sun. They bid farewell to their wolf companion and enter the city, where they decide to rest and recuperate before they go on to find Isun. And they do all kinds of stuff, like going for the magical bazaar and meeting a monkey man merchant. And they also head to a hot springs to relax for that night. and Pancake brings out a very particular item of his, a small little plush duck, who he claims to be his wife. Oh, and also Freda gets squished on by a bunch of sumo wrestlers. But after Sindri raises the water levels to scare them away, they finally relax, and then the next day, they decide to try and see Issun in the Capitol building, which really does not go well as they are essentially barred from entering. But a mysterious figure dressed in blue robes comes to them and tells them that he has tickets to it. Enough for everyone, and it's a costume party, and so they all dress up in specific costumes. And before getting to Issun himself, they have a grand old time enjoying the place. But Vanova in particular spots a very interesting figure in the crowds. One that she found out about because of a heart necklace he carries. It glows once he's nearby this person. But unfortunately the person leaves, so it's hard for her to get any more detail. But there's not enough time for that as they have to get to Issun, who actually wants to meet them in person anyway. He takes them to this big private library, wall to wall, with books of many kind. It's basically the library from the Pagemaster. You ever seen that movie? I don't care. And our mighty Issun told them of 6 magical items in the world. These magical items were the items that Issun used to seal Balsafar many years ago. Unfortunately, their city is in a state where he cannot leave it and he must stay behind. However, now that the adventurers have arrived, they can help him reacquire the items so that he can seal Balsafar away. And he tells them of the very first item not too far from here, the Gauntlet of Fear. And he offers them an airship in order to help them acquire it. And there you go, you are now officially up to date with the first chapter of the story that was lost to time. I may have missed some details, but I did my best to get every single detail I could. But now that it's uploaded, you can expect regular Questrian uploads now. And before I go, there's one more thing I should mention. We are selling a very beautiful art piece right here that'll be in later episodes. I figured I'd just advertise it right here, right now. But yes, thank you for listening, and you can expect the next episode of Questrians very shortly. I'm the Watcher Pony, your DM, and this has been their quest.